Good morning, and welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church's in-person and online worship. I'm Susie Hubley, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm a member of the worship committee. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel and care for the earth. Each month, Allen Avenue supports a nonprofit organization whose mission aligns with our Unitarian Universalist principles. The Share the Plate recipient for November is Project Feed. Project Feed, which stands for Food Emergency Exchange Depot, is an emergency food pantry located in Portland that provides food and household supplies to take home for individuals and families in crisis. They serve people from Cumberland County. To learn more about this organization, please go out to the website linked on our order of service today. For those at home, if you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out the welcome card so we can know more about you. This morning's service, titled Teachers All, is presented by Allen Avenue's Worship Committee. Lay-led worship is a tradition at this and many other Unitarian Universalist societies. At Allen Avenue, the Worship Committee either sponsors or presents one such service a month. On most other Sundays, worship is led by our minister, the Reverend Donna Dahlham. We're so glad you've joined us. And now we will center our hearts and minds with the ringing of the bell.
Words for chalice lighting are by Marjorie Montgomery. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
Our call to worship words this morning is titled The Great Teachers in Life, and it's written by Jason Cook. We seekers are on a quest to discover truth and meaning. Sometimes we think we've found it, wrapped up, glimmering with newness, straight off the intellectual assembly line. All the answers right here for us, and others if they'd only listen. But truth has a way of coming in disguise, sometimes wearing rags and sometimes finery, but so often cloaked from our immediate sight. And sometimes that which we have rejected, that which we have let go of or decided was only for others but not us, can be our teacher. Let our time of worship be an acknowledgement of the never-ending journey toward truth and meaning, and our appreciation of those we learn from along the way.
Today's Time for All Ages is titled Potential Energy, and it's by Tim Atkins. Today, I want to talk to you about science. It's one of the important sources of Unitarian Universalism. I love science, but it's not always easy to learn. For some people, the most difficult science to study is physics. Physics is the study of matter and energy, and some physicists study the different kinds of energy. The two most common types of energy I'm going to talk about today are potential energy and kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy of movement, and potential energy is the energy that's stored up that you can use for things like movement. And now that we've talked about the two kinds of energy, there's one big rule I want to share with you, and it's a big, important one. Energy is never created nor destroyed. Let me repeat that. Energy is never created nor destroyed. It's one of the most important principles of physics. In fact, it's a law called the first law of thermodynamics. To me, it's one of the most spiritually meaningful rules of science. In short, this law means that energy never goes away. It just changes form. So I want to show you how energy can change from potential to kinetic. I have here a very homemade pendulum, and if you can't see this well, you can always make your own and try it at home too. A pendulum is just a weight hanging on a string. So if I lift the ball a little way up and let it go, it starts moving back and forth. But if I lift it up even higher, it moves faster when it's on the bottom. That's because when I raise the ball up, I'm giving it more and more potential energy. All that potential energy changes to kinetic energy because energy is never created or destroyed. But if I just let it hang there and I don't put any energy, it doesn't move back and forth at all. That's because without potential energy, there's no way for it to move. So we're inspired in our spiritual life by science and what we learn about it. And this is another one of those lessons. The first lesson, we all have potential. We all have the potential to change who we are, what we believe, what we do. Because that potential energy inside of us can change into kinetic energy and move us in all sorts of different ways. I want to focus more on the second lesson. In order for us to move, we need to charge up our potential energy. We have to recharge our batteries for them to work. We have to add more logs to the fire for it to grow. We have to lift up the ball for it to swing back and forth. We have to expand our amount of potential energy to change the world. Because once we run out of potential energy, we can't keep moving. We stop. We burn out. We give up. One of our most important tasks is to make sure that we're constantly recharging our potential energy so we don't run out or run low. Sometimes that might mean we don't move forward as quickly as we want, but that's okay. If we run out of potential energy altogether, we'd have to stop completely. We all have different ways we can recharge our potential energy. Some people pray. Some people meditate. Some people binge on Netflix. Some people make art. Some people find that playing with friends helps to recharge their energy. However we do it, if we want to keep on moving forward, we also have to take the time to recharge our potential energy. So this week, I want you to spend a little extra time doing something that you know will recharge your potential. And now it's the tradition of Allen Avenue UU Church to invite you to share your important joys and sorrows aloud, so that all of us might carry the burden or join in the celebration. We invite you to share those things that are personal to you and not others. You can come up to the microphone on the side, say your name, and share your joy or sorrow. And you can place a stone in the bowl as we hold in community all that brings us together. And for those of you online, please share your joy or sorrow in the chat box. So that's one stone for the joys and sorrows that are unspoken and live in the wider community. And for all of our joys and sorrows, let us take a moment of prayer. These words are by Wayne B. Arneson. Spirit of life, we pause to give thanks for many gifts of life that are ours, gifts we find expressed and enhanced in the community of this church. We are grateful for our family and friends and all they mean to us. We are grateful for opportunities to learn and grow, and for teachers of all kinds, those who come into our classrooms and those we find within the pages of a book. We are grateful for the insights and beauty we find around us in the natural world. We are grateful for ministry and for all the forms that it takes in our community of faith, in teaching and preaching, in care for children, in care for our seniors, in care for our building, in leadership tasks both large and small. We pause now in silent witness to the gifts we share and the gratitude we feel. Amen, and blessed be.
Children's school in New York City. The young son of a famous folk singer was in her class. The boy spent most of the year under his desk. He did not wish to listen. That's what he was teaching Tyrrell. That's what he was teaching all. And she listened, we all listened and learned what the boy was about. During the years that Tyrrell and I led junior youth group sessions in this church, we had two boys who usually hid in their hoodies. They did not wish to be in church. They did not wish to listen. One of them was hiding among us on a Sunday when we spoke with the group about spiritual beliefs, about gods and goddesses and spirits. Suddenly the boy jerked his head up, his hoodie pulling back. "It's all a bunch of crap," he said. "The answers are in science." Then his head slid back into his hoodie. He had not wished to listen, but he had heard, and then he started teaching us. So listen and learn, listen and teach. We call ourselves UUs, but we must also be LLTs, cornerstones in the essential triad of listening, learning, and teaching. So listen, Do you hear a lesson? Someone somewhere is always teaching something. Even silences have sounds. But maybe we all have hoodies of our own, desks to hide under of our own. Television commentaries and comedies and Agatha Christie novels are two of the hoodies that I wear. Hoodies are useful for blocking out the nasty sounds from time to time, but as permanent accoutrements, they are treacherous. Listen. Listen and learn from what CNN is preaching and from what Fox is preaching as well. Listen and learn from what anti-vaxxers are teaching. Listen to those whose views you cannot accept or understand. Is that what I always do? I, the teacher? No, but I do sometimes give it a try. Listen and learn from others as you would have them learn from you. How often have we heard things like this? I don't listen to the news anymore because I just can't stand it. How could people possibly think X and Y? Members of our family and our social groups, well, we get along, but we don't talk about politics or religion or really much of anything else that's serious. Who wants to listen to all that crap? Listen. Listen to what all are saying. When we refuse to listen, we teach our children and each other not to hear. If we would teach each other, we must hear each other. All of us can teach, but all of us must listen. And in this time of deep divide, deep distrust, deep doubt, one of us must listen first. Listen. Do you hear a lesson? Someone somewhere is always teaching something. Maybe we can learn from them. And maybe, just maybe, they can learn from us. So listen.
Good morning. My name is Mike Luce, and I'm a member of the worship committee. So teaching can mean a whole lot of things. It might be the image of somebody in front of a class with people taking notes, if they're lucky, asking questions. Or maybe it's more like the flute lessons I took in high school and college with a lot more interaction, immediate feedback. Or it could be a practical training for a specific skill from a supervisor at work or a coworker. Like a lot of you, I'm sure I've encountered all of the above and more, some more helpful than others. In my career in community mental health, my best teachers weren't trying to teach me anything at all. They would just be in my clients, living their lives, struggling with their problems. And I tried to remember what worked and what didn't. Part of the job was to be a teacher of life and social skills. Most of the teaching I did was actually role modeling, though. But the biggest lesson I learned from my teachers, not the abnormal sight stuff in college or any of that, was that if I meant well and they knew it and they trusted me, I could make mistakes. And I would be forgiven for that because they knew where I was coming from. And trust me, I made a lot of mistakes. You have to. So as much as I've gone on about, the value of on-the-job learning, I don't want to diss college learning. You need the formal training and the theoretical classes. There are skills and information that you have to start off with, and ideas and conceptual frameworks you should be exposed to. College is the right setting for that. It's where good professors who actually want to teach are teaching. But no matter the place or the mode, whether college or work or in life, it's still my responsibility to be an active student. And while I'm at it, which is all the time, I have to remember that I'm always teaching something too. Even if it's only how to act, or on a bad day, how not to act. Leaders create meaningful spiritual experiences. We have religious education, programming, spiritual enrichment groups, and a variety of opportunities to create community. The funds we receive support all that we do, and 1/3 will be shared with Project Feed. There's a QR code on the back of the program if you want to donate electronically, or you can wait for the baskets to go around. If you're online, you can go to our website and use the donate button and indicate it's for Share the Plate. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
Good morning. I'm Anna Noyes Benoit, and a member of the Worship Committee. My piece is entitled Student or Teacher. When I began college, I chose a major in elementary education. I wanted to be a teacher. My academic progress was interrupted by the birth of my first child. However, one early practicum, I was placed in a Phoenix, Arizona inner city school with an all-Black population. I remember being on playground duty. The children seemed fascinated with my skin color and straight blonde hair. However, I was reprimanded when I let the curious children touch me. But this was back in 1969. The College of Education required a full-time commitment, and I could no longer make that as I had a baby at home. But my sister Barbara was the real teacher. She was chosen as Teacher of the Year from her county in Florida. After she died, her coworkers wrote moving things about her. Quote, "She was my mentor, the most amazing teacher I ever knew. Barbara was one of those teachers we all wish we could have had." Or quote, "She never gave up on any student, no matter how stubborn they were." Unquote. Barbara was a person who encouraged others to believe in themselves, to thrive and achieve their goals. She truly exhibited amazing grace. Well, meanwhile, I had finished an undergraduate degree with a bachelor's in general studies and was now parenting 2 children. I finally got my chance to be a classroom teacher when our youngest son was, school asked parents to teach for a day. I was assigned poetry and chose limericks, thinking this will be fun, even with a serious amount of preparation. I felt the presentation of the lesson was chaotic and exhausting. So as a result, my eyes were now wide open as to the many challenges and difficulties classroom teachers faced. And I realized I'm not a natural. Perhaps a more successful role for me as teacher was mentoring social work students in their final year of their master's program. I think I worked with over 10 different people over the years who spent 20 hours a week with me for their academic year. Each one was gifted and talented in their own way and was very much appreciated as an assistant in my busy hospital caseload. In the end, I feel I learned as much from each of them as they from me, and I'm grateful for each of my students, which is how it works, I think. We're both teacher and student simultaneously, which reminded us of a line from The King and I, you know the song, Getting to Know You. The relationship between teacher and student requires trust and respect. Certainly students get to know you, get to know all about you, as the song goes, and just the reverse is true as well. After the getting to know you part comes the getting to trust you. My sister had the uncanny ability to fasten on to people's strengths and ignore what others might call faults. She expressed love frequently and easily. She was someone who loved to laugh and have fun, which no doubt made her classroom a relaxed and joyful place to be. I remember stopping in at her school while visiting her in Santa Fe. She'd taken off the day to spend with me. An audible buzz went around the building. Mrs. Pelk is here. It was as if a celebrity had arrived, not their classroom teacher. We were picking up poodle skirts a friend of hers had made for us. That happened years ago, but I still hold on to that skirt, which perplexed my children who were recently helping me clean out closets. But looking back on that skirt brings back all the astonishment and awe I felt for my sister when I saw her in her work setting. Barbara was a remarkable teacher, but I know there are many like her in the school classrooms who, in spite of today's challenges and barriers, find ways to touch the lives of the children in a lasting way. Add a quote back from that song. It's a very ancient saying, but a true and honest thought. If you become a teacher, by your pupils you are taught. As a teacher, I've been learning, you'll forgive me if I boast, and now become an expert on the subject I like most, getting to know you.
This is a poem titled Fierce Urgency by Ashley Horan. My 4-year-old daughter has taught me this lesson. When a child wants to derail business as usual, to curb the hubris of adults who dare believe in schedules and plans and productivity, one fierce little body and one clear, piercing voice, strategically applied to the right pressure point, will change the course of the day's events. My comrades in organizing have taught me this lesson. When a silenced people want to be heard, to raise from dry bones a being in, to raise from dry bones a living, breathing dream of new ways of moving, being, incarnating freedom. One small, tenacious group whose hearts beat in rhythm, rising shoulder to shoulder against the inevitable, will bend the arc from impossibility to hope. Our young climate leaders are teaching us this lesson. When the grown-ups and the old movements are too slow, as the sea levels rise and the hurricanes rage and the migrants flee and the corporations profit, one generation, both young and silenced, refusing to accept an inheritance of doom, will take toward the streets and move us toward life. Blessings upon them as they teach us, organize us, beckon us in, and call us out. May their fierce urgency and uncompromising clarity show us the path toward healing and freedom and hope.
My name is Erica Bartlett, and as a kid, I'm pretty sure I thought most adults were teachers. My mom was a teacher, so was my grandmother and one of my uncles, as well as the parents of some of my friends, plus all my own school teachers and religious education leaders here at church. And in my house, even those of us who weren't officially teachers often got pulled into a teaching capacity. My mom had me, my brother, my dad, and many of my cousins visit her classroom over the years to talk to her students or read to them. For example, when I did a study abroad in England, I talked to her class about it as a way of teaching them a little about England. My mom even brought some of our rabbits to school with her to teach about them. Despite all this, or maybe because of it, I decided early on that the one thing I didn't want to be was a teacher. I saw the long hours my mom put in, her struggles with the politics and bureaucracy in the school, and the challenges of having to keep a tight budget due to her limited pay. So I decided teaching wasn't for me. Of course, what I failed to realize is that teaching doesn't only happen in schools, and it's not only done by official teachers. And in retrospect, it seems that I've been surrounded by teachers of all sorts. I count many people in this church among those teachers, offering models for how to speak in public, how to take a stand for justice issues, and how to work together towards a common goal. The authors of my favorite books have taught me not only about writing, but how stories connect us and remind us that we're not alone. The children in my life have taught me to remember what I knew as a kid, to take joy in simple things, to laugh and play and find wonder in the world. That list could go on, but as I think about it, it occurs to me that I've become a teacher myself, despite my intentions. Although it's never been my job title, in my work, I teach all the time. In the past, I helped write training manuals for the software I work on, and I delivered training to many of our clients. I even considered moving to the training department until I realized it would involve a lot of travel, which I didn't want. Even so, each time we have a software release, I do demos and training for people internally. Outside of that, I've used my own experience with learning how to eat mindfully to help others do the same. Sometimes this is directly through coaching, and sometimes through my writing. And then there are all the times when I'm teaching and don't even know it. Sometime after I joined Facebook, I reconnected with a friend from high school who sent me a note to say that she still remembered how kind and welcoming I was to her when she joined band. I didn't know it then, but it seems I was helping her to learn that she was valued. And when I used to take the bus to work, I'd sometimes do stretches while waiting for the bus. I don't know for sure, but I hope I inspired some people to take stretch breaks during their day. So looking back, I realized I wasn't right when I thought most adults were teachers. We all are, kids and adults alike, intentionally or not. And remembering that helps me do my best to make my lessons good ones.
Good morning. I am Keith Prairie, a member of the Worship Committee, and my pronouns are he and him. What about teaching? It's the teachers who were obvious in caring about something and wanting to pass on that caring. It was Douglas Waltersdorf, who was a 7th grade biology teacher, who got me interested in ecology and where and how humans are fitting in and not fitting in. It was my grandma, Esther Ostrander, who grew up farming and cooking and preserving, and who was always happy to have another set of hands in the kitchen to help with preparing food, with walks in her garden and paths and picking beans and corn and berries. It was Mrs. Jarvis, an elegant woman from Vermont, who taught 5th grade in Phoenix and inspired me to want to be a good student. It was Richard Davis who kept up with his college students on hikes and canoe trips, exploring wilderness and talks around the campfire about Whitehead and Whitewater. It was Marilyn Downs who led a group of students from Bar Harbor to train for a cause of protest, to be clams for the Clamshell Alliance and bond with 1,400 other souls who could not be silenced while another nuclear power plant was built. It was Margaret MacArthur and Gordon Bach, who both spent time at College of the Atlantic mentoring young people who aspired to folk music. It was me when I stepped up and became a leader at the Center for Grieving Children and helped families walk through some of their darkness. It was Paul Geneva when he shared his insights into the psychology of Carl Jung with a group here at Allen Avenue. It was when Gus Root showed me how he made several cool 3D wooden puzzles, and then I had a chance to make a few. It was me when I walked into a Allen Avenue youth group to wear the hat of a leader and talked, but mostly listened. It was Sally Breen's ability to share her enthusiasm for a cause with steadfast voice, a righteous knowing, and a glimmer in her eyes, and a palate full of cookies that would often bridge the gap where words failed. So what makes a teacher? It's not the blackboards and the chalk. It's not textbooks and classrooms. It's an ability to cross over and understand how hard it can be to do something new, to think about something differently, or to practice till some part of our brains and the minuscule muscles start to remember how to make the piano play or the keyboard type, and to recognize that something that is second nature to me may not be to you. It can be impossible for others. It is to ask the questions, even when the answers are difficult or elusive. It is an ability to step back and say things in a way that is different and more understandable for those of us whose synapses connect in varied ways. For all of you who do this every day, thank you. For all of us who do this every day, thank you. These words by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. In every person we meet, especially those who cause us discomfort, we find an opportunity for us to grow, to learn, to go further along the path of transformation that is our purpose in life. Every single one is our teacher. May the next week bring you many such moments of meetings that help you become the person you want to be, and may you welcome them all with joy. Blessed be.